I infiltrated Alessandro Caruso's charity gala, disguised as a waitress. Not for fun. For my photography portfolio. Alessandro Caruso was Manhattan's most powerful ghost. Everyone knew his name. Nobody knew his face. No photos existed. No interviews. No social media. Just whispers and rumors about the man who controlled the East Side, like his personal kingdom. One clear shot of him. Every magazine, newspaper, and high-end client in the city would be calling. I bought a catering uniform, walked in with a champagne tray, waited 2 hours. Then I saw him. Tall, perfectly tailored, commanding the room. I pulled out my phone, angled the camera. One shot. I didn't realize he'd been watching me in the window's reflection. I didn't realize his security was already moving. I didn't realize that in his world, a waitress with a phone meant assassin. 6 men surrounded me, his ice blue eyes locked onto mine. I was already dead. The phone was out of my hand before I could blink. One of the men in black suits had it. The other 5 formed a wall between me and the rest of the party. Nobody at the gala noticed. Or if they did, they knew better than to look. Walk. The man closest to me gestured toward a side door. His hand rested on something under his jacket, something gun-shaped. My heart was trying to punch through my ribcage. I can explain. Walk. Now. I walked. The side door led to a service corridor. White walls. Fluorescent lighting. The sounds of the party fading behind us, like I was being pulled underwater. We stopped at an elevator. Private. Required a keycard. One of the men swiped. The doors opened immediately. In. 6 of us crammed into the elevator. Me and 5 men who looked like they crushed skulls for cardio. Nobody spoke. Nobody looked at me. The elevator climbed and climbed, past the ballroom floor, past what I assumed were offices, all the way to the top. When the doors opened, I was looking at luxury that made the gala downstairs look cheap. Penthouse level, floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking Manhattan. Art that belonged in museums. Furniture that cost more than my annual rent. And him, Alessandro Caruso, stood with his back to us, looking out at the city like he owned every building in view. He probably did. Leave us, he said without turning around. The men left immediately. The elevator doors closed. Just me and the ghost of Manhattan. He turned slowly, deliberately. Up close, he was even more intimidating. Early 30s, maybe, sharp cheekbones, perfect posture, eyes that looked like they could calculate your exact worth and find you lacking in under 3 seconds. Name, he said. Not asked. Commanded. Riley. Riley Morrison. Who sent you, Miss Morrison? Nobody sent me. I'm a photographer. I just wanted. Who sent you? Each word was a bullet. Nobody. I swear, I'm freelance. I work for myself. I needed a photo of you for my portfolio. That's it. I'm not whatever you think I am. He stared at me for 5 long seconds. Then, he moved to a bar cart, poured himself scotch, didn't offer me anything. You infiltrated a private event, he said, voice terrifyingly calm. You impersonated staff. You accessed a secured floor, and you attempted to photograph me without authorization. He took a sip of his drink. In my world, Miss Morrison, people who do those things are usually law enforcement, or they work for people who want me dead. I'm not a cop. Prove it. How? Cops have backup, partners, protocols. He set down his glass, walked toward me. They also have better cover stories than I needed it for my portfolio. He stopped 2 feet away. Empty your pockets. What? Everything. On the table. Now. My hands shook as I pulled out my wallet. My actual phone, the cheap one I used for work. A lipstick. Gum. Keys to my Williamsburg apartment. He picked up my wallet. Flipped through it. Found my driver's license. Riley Elizabeth Morrison. 26. Brooklyn address. He looked at me. You really are just a photographer? Yes. That's what I've been trying to. Which makes you either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. He pulled out his own phone, typed something, waited. 30 seconds later, his phone buzzed. He read whatever message came through. His jaw tightened. You have 63,000 Instagram followers. Your last 15 posts are all from high-end events you weren't invited to. Corporate galas, fashion shows, gallery openings. He looked up. You make a career out of crashing parties and selling the photos. I prefer freelance event photographer. I prefer criminal trespasser. He pocketed his phone, crossed his arms. Here's what's going to happen, Miss Morrison. I'm going to ask you questions. You're going to answer them honestly. And then I'm going to decide whether you leave this building alive or in pieces. The room tilted. Betsy, you can't. I can do whatever I want. You broke into my event. You attempted to photograph me. You created a security breach that could have gotten people killed. His voice dropped lower. Dangerous. Do you have any idea who I am? You're Alessandro Caruso. You run Caruso Industries, import-export, real estate development. You're on the board of half the charities in Manhattan. That's my public face. Do you know what's behind it? I didn't answer. I control every major shipping operation on the East Coast. I settle disputes that law enforcement can't handle. I obtain order in a city that would tear itself apart without structure. He leaned closer. I'm what keeps the monsters in check, which means I need to be more terrifying than any of them. So say it, you're Mafia. I'm a businessman who operates in spaces where the law fails. He straightened. And you just tried to expose me. I didn't know, I heard rumors. I thought if I could get a photo prove you actually existed. Now you have proof. Congratulations. He walked back to the bar. Poured another drink. Unfortunately for you, that proof dies here. Please, I'll delete everything. I'll never tell anyone. You'll do exactly what I tell you to do. He turned back to face me. I have a problem, Miss Morrison. You created it. Now you're going to fix it. I don't understand. My organization operates on invisibility. No photos, no publicity, no proof I exist beyond my legitimate businesses. You attempted to shatter that invisibility, which means every rival family, every federal agency, every journalist in this city now knows someone got close enough to try. He set down his glass with careful precision. They'll be watching, waiting to see if any photos surface, waiting to see who you are and who you work for. But I don't work for anyone. They don't know that. Which means you're now a liability. To them and to me. So I'm going to keep you close. Where I can control you. Where you can't talk to anyone without my permission. Where every move you make is monitored. He pulled out a business card. Held it out. Tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. This address. You'll meet with my people. They'll explain your new job. I didn't take the card. I have a job. Not anymore. For the next 6 months, you work for me. You photograph what I tell you to photograph. You post what I approve. You become my propaganda machine. That's insane. That's survival. Mine and yours. He placed the card on the table between us. You have 2 choices. Work for me, or I ensure your name becomes very famous in very dangerous circles. Your photography clients disappear. Your apartment gets flagged by every agency in the city. And eventually someone who doesn't appreciate photographers decides you're a problem worth solving permanently. His eyes were ice. So what's it going to be, Miss Morrison? Do you work for me or do you take your chances with everyone else? I stared at the card. At him. At the city glittering through the windows like a promise that had just turned into a trap. I don't have a choice. No, he agreed. You don't. 6 months? 6 months. You follow my rules. You do exactly what I say. And at the end, you walk away. Free. Unharmed. With a portfolio that will actually make your career. And if I refuse? He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. You won't. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my apartment. 4th floor walk-up in Williamsburg. Walls covered in photos I'd taken at events I'd crashed. And tried to process what had just happened. I'd infiltrated a mafia boss's gala. He'd caught me. And now I belonged to him. My phone buzzed at 8:47 a.m. Unknown number. Miss Morrison. Victoria Chen. Mr. Caruso's executive assistant. A car will be outside your building in 8 minutes. Don't be late. She hung up before I could respond. I looked down at what I was wearing. Jeans and an old NYU sweatshirt. Not exactly business attire. 7 minutes later, I was in slightly nicer jeans and a blazer that I'd bought for a gallery opening last year. The car was waiting. Black Mercedes. Tinted windows. Driver in a suit. Who didn't smile or speak. Just opened the door and waited for me to get in. The drive took 20 minutes. Downtown. Financial district. The car pulled up to a sleek black tower that looked like every other corporate building. Except this one had security that made airports look casual. The driver escorted me through the lobby, past metal detectors, past guards with earpieces, into an elevator that required both a keycard and a fingerprint scan. 30th floor, the driver said. First words he'd spoken. The doors closed. My stomach dropped as we shot upward. When they opened, I was looking at a different world. Thick carpet, original art on the walls. The kind of silence that comes with serious money and serious power. Miss Morrison, a woman appeared. Late 30s. Perfect posture. Suit that probably cost more than my rent. Hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. I'm Victoria. Follow me. She moved quickly, efficiently. Every step purposeful. Mr. Caruso runs a precise operation, she said without looking back. Schedules are non-negotiable. When he says 9 a.m., he means 8:59 at latest. Dress code is business professional for all meetings. And when he gives an instruction, you execute immediately. Not after you check your phone, not after you finish your coffee. Immediately. We stopped at a conference room door. You'll be briefed on your role. Pay attention. Mr. Caruso doesn't repeat himself. She opened the door. The room was full. Alessandro at the head of the table. 5 other men in suits. All looking at me like I was a problem. They hadn't figured out how to solve yet. Miss Morrison. On time. Alessandro gestured to an empty chair. Sit. I sat. These are my senior advisors. Marco handles security. Vincent oversees operations. Anthony manages finances. Paolo coordinates logistics. James handles legal matters. Each man nodded as Alessandro said his name. None of them smiled. For the next 6 months, Alessandro continued, you'll help reshape public perception of Caruso Industries. You'll photograph our legitimate businesses, attend our charity events, create content that shows we're community pillars, not criminals. But you are criminals, I said before my brain caught up to my mouth. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Alessandro's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes went very, very cold. We're businessmen, Miss Morrison. We operate in sectors that exist because society creates demand it won't acknowledge. We provide order when the system fails, and we do it all within a framework of rules that keeps this city functioning. He placed both hands on the table, leaned forward slightly. Your job isn't to judge us. Your job is to follow instructions. Can you do that, or do we need to revisit last night's conversation about your options? Every instinct screamed at me to run, to tell him exactly where he could shove his job offer, to walk out and take my chances. But I couldn't, because he was right. I had no options, no leverage, no way out, except through. I can do that, I said quietly. Good. He straightened, gestured to Victoria, who placed a folder in front of me. Your first assignment is Wednesday. The Caruso Foundation hosts a children's hospital fundraiser at the plaza. You'll photograph the event, focus on our family members interacting with donors, children, medical staff. Make us look generous, caring, human. I opened the folder. It was full of details. Guest list, floor plan, shot list with specific angles and moments to capture. This wasn't a photography job. This was propaganda. You don't have to understand, Alessandro cut me off. You just have to execute. You're asking me to lie. I'm asking you to show one side of a complex truth. He leaned back in his chair. Caruso Industries donates $8 million annually to various causes. We employ over 300 people directly and support thousands more through our businesses. We fund hospitals, schools, community centers. That's real. That's documented. I'm asking you to photograph reality. A curated reality. All photography is curation, Miss Morrison. You know that. He wasn't wrong. Every photo I'd ever taken had been a choice. What to include, what to exclude, what story to tell. And if I refuse? Marco, the security advisor, spoke for the first time. His voice was gravel and threat. You won't refuse. Alessandro held up a hand. Marco went silent. Miss Morrison, let me be very clear. You created a security breach last night. You exposed yourself as someone who infiltrates secure locations and takes unauthorized photos. Every rival organization in this city now sees you as either an asset or a threat. He pulled out his phone, showed me the screen. It was a photo of me leaving his building last night. This was taken by the Volkov family. They run Brighton Beach. They're wondering who you are and who you work for. He swiped. Another photo. Me getting coffee this morning. This is from the DeLuca crew. They control the Bronx. They're asking the same questions. My stomach dropped. You painted a target on yourself, Riley. The only way to remove it is to very publicly become my photographer, someone under my protection, someone no one will touch, because doing so means going through me. So I'm not really your employee. I'm your prisoner. You're my responsibility. There's a difference. He closed his phone, placed it on the table between us. 6 months. That's all I'm asking. Follow the rules. Take the photos. Post what I approve. And at the end, you walk away with a portfolio that will actually open doors and a reputation for being someone who works with the most exclusive clients in Manhattan. I don't trust you. Good. Trust is earned. He stood. The meeting was ending. Wednesday, 9 a.m. Dress appropriately. Victoria will send you details tonight. The advisors started gathering their materials. The meeting was clearly over. I stood, turned toward the door. Oh, and Miss Morrison? I looked back. Alessandro was watching me with those ice blue eyes that seemed to see through every wall I'd ever built. Don't try to run. I'm very good at finding things that belong to me. The words hung in the air, like a threat and a promise. I left without responding. I spent the next 2 days researching everything I could find about Alessandro Caruso, which was almost nothing. Caruso Industries had a website, professional, polished. It listed their legitimate businesses, import-export operations, real estate development, construction management. Alessandro was listed as CEO. No photo, just a name and a title. The company had been founded by his grandfather in 1952. Started as a small shipping business and grew into an empire. Now they operated in 6 states and had holdings worth an estimated $2 billion. All perfectly legal. All perfectly documented. But the internet also had rumors. Reddit threads about the invisible Don who controlled Manhattan's underworld. True crime podcasts that mentioned his name in passing. Articles about organized crime that carefully avoided direct accusations but implied connections. The pattern was clear. Everyone knew what Alessandro Caruso really was, but nobody could prove it. And the few people who tried to expose him had disappeared from public life entirely. 1 journalist, 2 federal investigators, a photographer who'd attempted to document his operations. All gone, relocated, silenced. Or worse. I was playing a game. I didn't understand with stakes. I couldn't calculate. Wednesday morning came too fast. Victoria's email had been detailed. Black dress, professional but elegant, minimal jewelry, hair pulled back. You're representing Caruso Industries at a high-profile charity event. Look the part. The email also included a contract, 6 pages of legal language that basically said, I agreed to work exclusively for Alessandro Caruso for 6 months, would photograph only approved events, would submit all images for approval before posting, and would maintain strict confidentiality about everything I saw or heard. There was also a salary number that made my eyes water. $50,000 for 6 months of work, more than I'd made in the last 2 years combined. I signed it at 11 p.m. Tuesday night and sent it back to Victoria. The car picked me up at 8:15 a.m. Wednesday. Same black Mercedes. Same silent driver. Different destination. The Plaza Hotel. 5th Avenue. Old money and older power. The driver escorted me inside. Through the lobby. Past tourists and guests. Into a private ballroom that had been transformed into something magical. White and gold everywhere. Crystal, chandeliers, round tables, with elaborate centerpieces. A stage at one end, with a podium and a screen, showing images of children in hospital beds. The Caruso Foundation Annual Children's Hospital Fundraiser. I'd researched this too. It raised an average of $3 million per year, funded pediatric cancer research, built new hospital wings, provided treatment for families who couldn't afford care. All real. All documented. All good. Miss Morrison. Alessandro appeared beside me. Navy suit today. No tie. He looked like he'd stepped out of a fashion magazine specifically designed to make women forget how to form coherent thoughts. You're early, he said. Not quite approval, but close. Traffic was light. Good. Come with me. He led me through the ballroom, introduced me to people. Donors, board members, hospital administrators. Riley Morrison, our foundation photographer. She'll be documenting today's event. Everyone smiled, shook my hand, welcomed me like I'd always been part of the team. Alessandro's hand rested lightly on my lower back the entire time, guiding me, claiming me, making it clear to everyone present that I was under his protection. It should have felt threatening. Instead, it felt strangely safe. You'll focus on candid moments, he said once we'd made the rounds. Donors talking with doctors, board members interacting with families. My mother specifically requested photos with the children. She's excellent with them. Your mother? Elena Caruso. She runs the foundation. He gestured across the room. A woman in her early 60s stood talking with a group of young cancer patients. She was elegant, beautiful, and the way the children smiled at her was genuine. Not staged, not forced. Real. She's the heart of this operation, Alessandro said quietly. Everything we do here, every dollar we raise, exists because she believes we have a responsibility to give back. There was something in his voice. Something soft, almost vulnerable. Take good photos of her today. She'll appreciate it. Then he was gone. Moving to another group. Shaking hands, playing the role of the generous CEO who definitely wasn't also a Mafia don. I raised my camera and started shooting. For the next 3 hours, I documented something I hadn't expected: genuine philanthropy. Elena Caruso sat with children, held their hands, listened to their stories, cried when they talked about their treatments. Donors wrote checks not because they were afraid, but because they actually cared. Hospital staff gave presentations about research breakthroughs funded by Caruso Foundation grants. Families spoke about how the foundation had paid for treatments they couldn't afford, how their children were alive because of this money. It was real, all of it. And I had no idea how to reconcile the man who'd threatened me in his penthouse with the man who funded cancer treatment for children. Good work today. Alessandro appeared beside me as the event wound down. I hadn't heard him approach. You captured exactly what we needed. Natural. Authentic. Human. It was easy to photograph. It's all real. Of course it's real. He looked at me like I'd said something strange. Did you think we'd fake charity work? I don't know what to think about any of this. He studied me for a moment. Something shifted in his expression. Less cold. More curious. Come with me. I want to show you something. He led me out of the ballroom, through corridors, into a private elevator that took us up. When the doors opened, we were in another penthouse. But this one felt different. Less showroom. More lived in. This is my personal residence, Alessandro said. Top 3 floors of this building. He walked to the windows, looked out at Manhattan stretching below. My grandfather started with nothing. Came here from Sicily with $10 and a dream of building something that would last. He worked shipyards, saved every penny, bought his first boat when he was 30. Alessandro turned to face me. He also killed 7 men who tried to steal from him, built his empire on violence and fear, did what he had to do to survive in a world that wanted him to fail. He moved closer. But he also sent money back to Sicily, funded schools, helped immigrants get established, provided loans to people the banks wouldn't touch. He was brutal and generous in equal measure. Why are you telling me this? 'Cause you asked what to think about all this. About me. About what we do. He stopped 2 feet away. I'm my grandfather's legacy. The violence and the philanthropy. The control and the care. You can't separate them. They exist together. That's not an excuse. It's not an excuse. It's reality. His eyes held mine. I've done terrible things. Riley, I'll do more terrible things before I'm done. But I'll also fund hospitals, feed families, protect neighborhoods that the police have abandoned. Both things are true simultaneously. And you expect me to photograph only one side? I expect you to understand that one side doesn't negate the other. The good we do is real. The children whose lives we save are real. That's what I'm asking you to document. He walked back to the elevator. Pressed the button. Think about that. I'll see you Friday. There's another event. Victoria will send details. The elevator arrived. I stepped in. As the doors closed, I saw him standing there, watching me, looking like a man who carried the weight of contradictions and wore them like armor. Friday's event was at a community center in the Lower East Side. The Caruso Foundation was funding renovations, new computers for the youth program, updated kitchen for the meal service, fresh paint and furniture for the common areas. I photographed Alessandro talking with elderly residents, teenagers showing him their artwork, children playing basketball in the new gym. Every person there knew exactly who he was, and every person there was grateful. Mr. Caruso paid for my nephew's surgery, one woman told me. Doctors said he wouldn't walk again. Now he's playing soccer. Mr. Caruso got my brother a job when nobody else would hire him, a young man said. Gave him a chance after prison. Now he's got a family, a real life. Story after story. Gratitude after gratitude. But I also saw the other side. Marco, Alessandro's security chief, pulling someone aside. Quiet conversation. The person's face going pale before nodding rapidly and leaving quickly. Vincent, making a phone call in the corner. Handle it. I don't care how. Just make it disappear. Paulo coordinating with men who were definitely not community center staff. Men with earpieces and the kind of alertness that came from expecting trouble. Two worlds existing in the same space. You're seeing it now, aren't you? Alessandro appeared beside me. I hadn't heard him approach. Again. Seeing what? The complexity. The contradiction. The fact that nothing is simple. I'm seeing that you help people and threaten them in the same breath. I help people who deserve help. I threaten people who create problems. He watched the community center's director, think Elena Caruso, with tears in her eyes. The world isn't divided into good and evil, Riley. It's divided into people who maintain order and people who create chaos. I maintain order. By whatever means necessary. That's a dangerous philosophy. It's the only philosophy that works in my world. He turned to leave, then stopped. Tomorrow, 6 p.m., my office. I want to review the photos from this week. Make sure we're aligned on messaging. That's not 6 p.m., Riley. Don't be late. He walked away before I could protest. I showed up at 5:55 p.m. Saturday. The building was quieter on weekends. Less security, fewer people. The 30th floor felt almost abandoned. Victoria was gone. The other offices were dark. Just Alessandro's corner suite glowing with warm light. I knocked. Come in. He was at his desk, laptop open. Documents spread across the surface. He'd removed his jacket, rolled up his sleeves. I could see a tattoo on his left forearm. Italian script. I couldn't quite read. Sit. He gestured to the chair across from him. Show me what you've got. I pulled out my laptop. Connected it to the large screen on his wall. Displayed the photos I'd selected from the week's 2 events. He studied each one in silence. Elena with the children. Donors writing checks. Community center residents. Smiling. Alessandro himself. Looking generous and approachable. These are good, he said finally. Better than good. You captured exactly what I asked for. Curated reality. Honest reality. From a specific angle. He closed my laptop, which is what all photography is. Every photo you've ever taken has told a story from a chosen perspective. I'm just asking you to choose my perspective for 6 months. And then what? And then you're free to tell whatever story you want. He stood, walked to the bar cart, poured 2 glasses of wine without asking if I wanted one. You're wondering if you can trust me, he said, handing me a glass. If I'll actually let you go at the end of 6 months. If this is a trap that never ends. I didn't respond. But he was right. I keep my word, Riley. Always. It's the only currency that matters in my world. 6 months. That's the deal. I won't extend it. I won't change the terms. You fulfill your obligations. I fulfill mine. He sat on the edge of his desk, close enough that I could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle. But I need you to actually commit. Not just show up and go through the motions. I need you to understand what we're building here and why it matters. Propaganda, legacy. His eyes held mine. I'm 34 years old. I inherited this organization when I was 26. My father died, And suddenly I was responsible for 300 families. People who depend on me for their livelihoods, their safety, their futures. He took a sip of wine. I could have run this like my grandfather. Pure violence and intimidation. That's what everyone expected. But I wanted something different, something that could survive scrutiny, something my children could inherit without shame. So you built a charity foundation. I built a legitimate empire with a philanthropic arm that actually does good. Both things can be true, Riley. I can be dangerous and generous, threatening and protective, a criminal and a benefactor. Those things contradict each other, only if you think in binaries. The world doesn't work that way. People don't work that way. He leaned forward slightly. You don't work that way either. What's that supposed to mean? You break rules, infiltrate private events, take photos without permission. But you also chose photography because you want to tell stories, capture truth, make people feel something real. He was too close. I could feel the heat of him. You're not just a rule breaker, Riley. You're someone who believes the end justifies the means, that getting the shot matters more than how you get it. That's not so different from what I do. I don't hurt people, don't you? He tilted his head slightly. Every person you've photographed without permission, every event you've crashed, every boundary you've crossed. Did you ask them how they felt about being exposed, about having their privacy violated, about seeing themselves in your portfolio without their consent? I opened my mouth, closed it. He was right. I'd never thought about it that way. Never considered that my pursuit of the perfect shot came with victims. We're not so different, Alessandro said quietly. We both do questionable things in service of what we think is a greater purpose. The difference is I'm honest about it. You pretend your rule breaking is somehow noble. He stood, walked back around his desk, put distance between us. Think about that this week. And next Friday, when you're photographing our hospital wing dedication, ask yourself, am I documenting propaganda, or am I telling a true story about complex people doing real good in imperfect ways? He opened a folder, dismissed me without words. I left his office feeling more confused than when I'd entered. Week 2. 4 more events. 2 hospital visits. 1 community center opening. 1 scholarship ceremony for kids from the Lower East Side. Every event was the same pattern. Genuine good existing alongside implied threat. Alessandro helping an elderly woman up the stairs while Marco handled a situation in the parking lot. Elena giving a speech about second chances, while Vincent made calls about someone who needed to understand the rules. Scholarships funded by money that came from where exactly? I was 3 weeks in when I finally asked. We were in his office again. Late Saturday evening, reviewing photos. Just the 2 of us. Where does the money come from? I said. For all this, the foundation, the community centers, the scholarships. Alessandro looked up from the screen. You really want to know? Yes. He closed the laptop, leaned back in his chair. Shipping operations. Import-export. We move goods from Europe and Asia into the East Coast. Legal goods. Electronics. Textiles. Automotive parts. We're licensed. Registered. We pay taxes. And sometimes those shipments contain additional items, things people want but can't acquire through legal channels. We facilitate those transactions for a fee. Drugs? No, never drugs. His voice went hard. Drugs destroy communities. I won't touch them. Anyone in my organization who deals drugs is out. Permanently. Then what? Weapons. High-end electronics that haven't been approved for U.S. import yet. Luxury goods that avoid taxation. Art that collectors want, without proper provenance. He paused. Information, favors, access. So you're smugglers. We're facilitators. The law says certain things are illegal. We say those laws are arbitrary, and people should have access to what they want. We provide that access. For a price. And the foundation? The foundation is funded by legitimate business profits. Clean money. Audited. Legal. The IRS has examined our books 3 times. We pass every inspection because we actually follow the rules where they matter. He stood, walked to the windows. I don't launder money through charity, Riley. I don't use sick children to hide criminal activity. The good we do is genuine, separate from everything else. How am I supposed to believe that? Because it's true. And because you've spent 3 weeks photographing it. You've seen the children we help, the families we support, the communities we rebuild. That's real. He turned back to face me. My grandfather taught me, if you take from the community, you have to give back. Otherwise, you're just a parasite. We take, but we give back more. That's the balance. That's still crime. That's still life. Nothing is pure. Nothing is simple. You can judge me for it. Most people do. But I sleep fine at night, knowing that more people are better off because of what I do than worse off. I didn't know what to say to that. Alessandro walked back to his desk, picked up an envelope. Your first payment, deposited this morning. Check your account. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app. $25,000. Half the agreed salary for 3 weeks of work. More money than I'd ever seen in my account at once. I pay my debts, Alessandro said. And I expect the same from the people who work for me. 3 more months. Keep doing what you're doing. And at the end, we're even. And then I'm free, and then you're free. He held out his hand. I stared at it for a moment, then shook it. His grip was firm, warm. His eyes held mine for 3 seconds longer than necessary. See you Monday, he said. 9 a.m. Hospital dedication. I left his office with $25,000 in my account and absolutely no idea if I just made a deal with the devil or someone genuinely trying to do good in a broken world. Month 2 started with a problem. The Volkov family, Brighton Beach, Russian mob that controlled the waterfront and wanted Alessandro's shipping operations. I didn't know any of this at first. I just knew that Monday morning, I arrived at the hospital dedication to find tension crackling through Alessandro's team, like electricity before a storm. Marco had 12 men instead of the usual 4. Vincent was on his phone nonstop. Paolo kept scanning the crowd like he expected an attack. Alessandro himself looked the same. Calm, controlled, perfect posture, and that ice blue stare that gave nothing away. But I'd spent enough time around him now to see the signs. The slight tension in his jaw, the way his hand rested near his waist where I'd seen him keep a weapon. The measured way he moved through the crowd, always keeping his back to walls. Something was wrong. The dedication went smoothly. Ribbon cutting. Speeches. Hospital administrators thanking the Caruso Foundation for the $3 million donation that built the new pediatric wing. I photographed it all. Children in wheelchairs. Doctors showing off new equipment. Elena crying as she toured the colorful rooms designed to make sick kids feel less scared. All real. All good. But underneath it, something darker brewing. Riley. Alessandro appeared beside me as the event wrapped up. He'd done this dozens of times now, materialized next to me without warning. I'd stopped jumping. We need to leave. Now, his hand wrapped around my elbow. Gentle but firm, guiding me toward the exit. What's happening? Nothing you need to worry about. Marco will drive you home. I have my own. Marco will drive you home, he repeated. Not a suggestion. We reached the parking area. The black Mercedes was already running. Marco stood beside it, hand inside his jacket. Get in, Alessandro said. Go straight home. Don't stop anywhere. Don't talk to anyone. Lock your doors. I'll call you later. You're scaring me. Something flickered in his eyes. Almost like regret. Good. Fear keeps you careful. Now get in the car. Marco opened the door. I got in. As we pulled away, I watched through the rear window. Alessandro stood in the parking lot, surrounded by his men, watching our car leave. Then he turned and walked back inside, into whatever danger he'd deliberately kept me away from. The call came at 11 p.m. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Riley. It's Alessandro. His voice was different. Rougher. Tired. What happened? Someone tried to make a statement at the hospital. We handled it. Is everyone okay? Silence. For 3 seconds. Everyone who matters is fine. Which meant someone wasn't fine. Someone who'd tried to hurt him or his people. Someone who'd now been handled. I sat on my couch in the dark apartment, phone pressed to my ear, and tried not to think about what handled meant. Are you okay? I asked, before I could stop myself. More silence. Why do you care? I don't know. But apparently I do. I heard him exhale. Long and slow. I'm fine. Tired. But fine. A pause. Thank you for asking. Alessandro. Get some sleep, Riley. Tomorrow's event is cancelled. Take the day off. I'll call you Wednesday. He hung up before I could respond. I sat there in the dark, holding my phone, wondering when I'd stopped seeing him as just my captor and started seeing him as, what? A person? Someone I was starting to understand? Someone I was starting to care about. That was dangerous. More dangerous than any rival mob family. Wednesday's event was a gallery opening. Caruso Industries had funded renovations for a community art space in the Lower East Side. Local artists displaying their work. Kids from the neighborhood, showing pieces they'd created in after-school programs. Alessandro had funded. It was small, intimate, less formal than the hospital events. Alessandro arrived late, still in his suit, but his tie was gone. His hair looked like he'd run his hands through it multiple times. There were shadows under his eyes that hadn't been there before. He found you in the corner, photographing a 10-year-old girl's painting of her neighborhood. You came, he said quietly. You said Wednesday. It's Wednesday. I thought you might quit after Monday. Did you want me to quit? He studied me for a long moment. No, I didn't want you to quit. An artist approached, young woman, maybe early 20s with paint-stained hands and nervous energy. Mr. Caruso, I wanted to thank you. The grant you gave me, it let me quit my second job. I can actually make art now. Real art. This show wouldn't exist without you. Alessandro's entire demeanor shifted. The exhaustion disappeared behind a warm smile. Your work is exceptional, Maria. The city needs more artists. Like you. Keep creating. She left glowing, practically floating. I raised my camera, captured the moment. Alessandro watching her go, something soft in his expression that I'd never seen before. You're good at that, I said. At what? Making people feel seen, valued, like they matter. They do matter. He turned to face me. Every person we help matters. That's the point of all this. Even the people you handle when they cross you? His jaw tightened. Those are different situations. Are they? Or is it just easy to care about people when they're grateful and hard when they're threatening? You don't understand my world, Riley. Then explain it to me. We stood in the middle of the gallery, surrounded by art and children, and community members who had no idea they were standing feet away from a Mafia don, the man who tried to make a statement, Monday. Alessandro said quietly. He was sent by the Volkov family. He had a gun. He was 20 feet from the children's ward. If my people hadn't stopped him, he would have opened fire in a hospital to send me a message. My stomach dropped. So we made sure he'll never threaten children again. Yes. His eyes were ice again. I don't apologize for protecting innocent people. I don't apologize for eliminating threats before they materialize. That's what I do. That's what keeps everyone in this room safe enough to worry about art instead of survival. You could have called the police. The police would have arrested him. His family would have bailed him out. He'd be back on the street in 72 hours. And next time, he might succeed. Alessandro leaned closer. I don't take chances with people's lives. Not when I have the power to permanently solve problems. That's not justice. That's survival. And it's the only thing that works in my world. He walked away before I could respond. I watched him move through the gallery, talking with artists, complimenting children, playing the role of generous benefactor while wearing the weight of whatever he'd done Monday night, like invisible armor. Complex, contradictory, impossible to categorize. I raised my camera and kept shooting. 2 days later, I was in my apartment editing photos when someone knocked. Not the usual knock. Hard, urgent, police style. I looked through the peephole. 3 men, suits. Not Alessandro's people. I'd learned to recognize his team by now. These were different. Wrong. Riley Morrison, one called through the door. Russian accent. We need to talk to you. My blood went cold. I backed away from the door, pulled out my phone. Dialed the number. Alessandro had made me save his emergency contact. 2 rings. Riley, there are men at my door. 3 of them. Russian accents. They're not yours. Lock yourself in your bathroom. Now. Don't open the door for anyone except Marco. He's 5 minutes away. Alessandro. Bathroom. Now. Stay on the phone with me. I ran to the bathroom. Locked the door. Sat in the tub and tried not to shake. The knocking continued. Harder now. Miss Morrison, we just want to talk about your employer, about what you photograph. They want information, Alessandro said, in my ear. His voice was calm, controlled. They think you're vulnerable, scared, that you'll give me up to save yourself. I wouldn't. I know. Just stay quiet. Marco's almost there. The knocking stopped. Silence. Then I heard my front door crash open. They'd broken in. Footsteps in my apartment. Searching. Getting closer. Riley? Alessandro's voice was urgent now. Are you hidden? Bathroom. Doors locked. Marco's in the building. 30 seconds. Stay quiet. The bathroom door handle rattled. Miss Morrison, this is very foolish. We don't want to hurt you. We just want information. A shoulder hit the door. Once. Twice. The lock wouldn't hold much longer. Then I heard it. A sound I'd never forget. Gunshots. 3 of them. Loud and close. Shouting. In Russian. Then English. Down. On the ground. Now. Marco's voice. Then Vincent's. Then more men. Silence. Riley. Alessandro's voice in my ear. It's over. You can come out. Marco has them. My hands were shaking so hard, I could barely unlock the door. Marco stood in my destroyed living room. Vincent, beside him. 4 other men in suits. And 3 men on the floor. Hands zip-tied behind their backs. Blood on one's face where Marco had clearly hit him. Are you hurt? Marco asked. I shook my head. Couldn't speak. Pack a bag, Vincent said. You're not staying here. Where? Mr. Caruso's penthouse. Until this situation is resolved. I can't. You can, and you will. Marco's voice was flat. They found you once. They'll find you again. Only safe place right now is with us. I looked around my apartment. My home. My space. My door was destroyed. My sense of security shattered. 5 minutes, Marco said. Essentials only. I packed in a daze. Clothes. Laptop. Camera equipment. Toiletries. When I emerged, the 3 men were gone. So was most of the blood. Marco's team worked efficiently. Cars waiting, Vincent said. Alessandro's penthouse was exactly as I remembered. Expensive, imposing, more museum than home. Marco escorted me inside. Set my bag down. Mr. Caruso will be here within the hour. Make yourself comfortable. Kitchen stocked. Wi-Fi password is on the counter. Don't leave without security. Then he was gone. I stood in the living room of a Mafia Don's penthouse, holding my camera bag, trying to process that I'd just been attacked in my own apartment. The door opened 45 minutes later. Alessandro came in like a storm, still in his suit, but his jacket was off. His sleeves were rolled up. There was something dark on his shirt cuff that might have been blood. He saw me standing there and stopped. For 3 seconds, we just stared at each other. Then he crossed the room in 4 long strides and pulled me into his arms. Not gently, not carefully, hard and desperate, like he needed to confirm. I was real. Are you hurt? His voice was rough against my hair. No, I'm fine. Marco got there in time. I should have moved you sooner. I should have anticipated they'd try this. You couldn't have known. I should have known. He pulled back just enough to look at me. His eyes were wild, barely controlled. I put you in danger. I made you a target. This is my fault. Alessandro, you're staying here until this is over. However long that takes. I'll have Marco bring the rest of your things tomorrow. You'll have a room. Privacy. But you don't leave this building without a full security detail. For how long? Until the Volkovs understand that touching you means war. He let me go, stepped back, ran his hands through his hair. I need to make some calls. Your room is down the hall. Second door on the right. Bathrooms attached. If you need anything, ask Marco. He'll be stationed outside tonight. Where will you be? He looked at me like I'd asked something unexpected. Handling this situation, making sure the people who sent those men understand the consequences of threatening what's mine. I'm not yours. Yes, he said quietly, dangerously. You are. For the next 3 months, you're under my protection, which means anyone who touches you answers to me. And I'm not merciful to people who put you in danger. He left before I could respond. I stood in his living room, listening to his voice drift from somewhere deeper in the penthouse, speaking Italian, rapid and angry, making calls, issuing orders, starting a war. Because of me. I didn't see him for 3 days. Marco brought my things, set up my room, made sure I had everything I needed. Victoria emailed a revised schedule. All events postponed until further notice. I was a prisoner in a luxury penthouse, safe but trapped. On day 4, Alessandro finally appeared. It was 2 a.m. I couldn't sleep. I was sitting in his living room in pajamas, drinking tea and staring out at the Manhattan skyline. He came in through the private elevator, still in his suit. He looked exhausted. There was a bruise on his jaw that hadn't been there before. He saw me and stopped. "You're awake." Couldn't sleep. Neither could I. He walked to the bar, poured scotch, drank it, poured another. Then he came and sat on the couch across from me. "It's handled," he said quietly. "The Volkovs have agreed to a truce. You're no longer a target." "What did you do?" "What I had to do." He took another drink. "You don't want details." "Maybe I do." His eyes met mine. Sharp. Assessing. "I can't go back, Riley. Once you know certain things, you can't unknow them. Right now, you can still pretend I'm just a businessman with questionable methods. Do you really want to lose that?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. "No," I admitted. "I don't want to know." "Smart." We sat in silence, him drinking scotch, me holding tea that had gone cold. "You started a war for me," I said finally. "I ended a war before it started. There's a difference. Because of me, because they crossed a line. They threatened someone under my protection. I can't allow that without response. It's not about you personally. It's about the rules. Everything's about rules with you. Rules keep the world from descending into chaos, or they keep you from having to feel things." He looked at me sharply. "Excuse me. You hide behind rules, behind structure, behind this perfectly controlled version of yourself. But underneath it, you're just scared." "I'm not scared of anything." "You're terrified of losing control, of being imperfect, of someone seeing the real you and finding you lacking." His jaw clenched. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I?" I set down my mug, leaned forward. "You fund hospitals and kill people. You help children and threaten anyone who crosses you. You pulled me into your arms like you were terrified. I was hurt, and then spent 3 days avoiding me, because that moment of vulnerability scared you. Riley, you're a type 1, Alessandro. Perfectionist. You think if you can just control everything, make everything perfect, follow all the rules correctly, then you'll finally be good enough, safe enough, right enough." He stared at me, something dangerous flickering in his eyes. "And what are you? What's your excuse for breaking every rule you encounter?" "Type 7. Enthusiast. I run from pain, from boredom, from anything that makes me sit still long enough to feel how scared I am that my life has no meaning." The words came out before I could stop them. Raw, honest, true. I crash parties and infiltrate events and take unauthorized photos because it makes me feel alive. Because as long as I'm chasing the next thrill, I don't have to face the fact that I'm 26 and have no idea who I am or what I'm doing with my life. Alessandro set down his glass. "So we're both running." "Yeah, we are. You run toward control. I run toward chaos. But we're both running from the same thing." "What's that?" "Being real. Being seen. Being vulnerable enough to let someone actually know us." He stood, walked to the windows, looked out at the city. "You're right," he said quietly. "That terrifies me. Someone seeing past everything I've built, past the power and the control and the rules, seeing the man underneath, and finding him lacking. What if they found him extraordinary?" He turned to look at me. "That terrifies me more." We stared at each other across his living room, the Manhattan skyline glittering behind him, the space between us charged with something I didn't have a name for. "You should get some sleep," he said finally. "We have an event on Monday. Children's literacy program. Big donors. You'll need to be sharp." "Alessandra." "Good night, Riley." He walked past me, down the hall, to his room. I sat there alone in his living room, my heart beating too fast, wondering what would have happened if I'd crossed the space between us, wondering if I would get another chance. Living with Alessandro was strange, not because he was controlling or threatening, but because he wasn't. He gave me complete freedom within the penthouse, access to everything. His office, when he wasn't using it. His extensive library, the roof terrace with its panoramic views. He worked long hours, left before I woke up most mornings, returned late most nights. But when we were in the same space, something had shifted. He asked about my photos, actually looked at them, gave feedback that was thoughtful and specific. I asked about his businesses, the legitimate ones. He explained import logistics and real estate development, like he was genuinely interested in teaching me. We had dinner together twice. Nothing formal, just takeout at his dining table while he answered emails, and I edited photos. It felt almost domestic. That terrified me more than the guns, or the violence, or the fact that I was living with a Mafia don. Week 8 arrived with a problem I should have anticipated. My apartment lease was up. I'd been living in Alessandro's penthouse for 2 weeks. The management company needed an answer. Let it go, Alessandro said when I brought it up over coffee one morning. I can't just. Why not? You're living here, rent-free, better security, closer to most of our events. It makes practical sense. For 2 more months. Then what? He looked up from his phone. Then we renegotiate. We had a deal. 6 months. We did. We do. He set down his phone. But circumstances have changed. You're safer here. And frankly, you're more useful when you're close. It would be foolish to move you back to Brooklyn just to prove a point. Useful. That's what I am to you? Something flickered in his eyes. You know that's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? He stood, walked to where I sat at his kitchen island, leaned against the counter beside me. I mean that having you here has been easier than I expected. You don't get in the way. You understand when I need space. You're sharp enough to keep up with conversations about my work. And you take extraordinary photographs that genuinely help my foundation. He paused, and I sleep better, knowing you're protected. My heart did something stupid in my chest. Alessandro. His phone rang. He looked at the screen. His expression went cold. I need to take this. He walked away, started speaking rapid Italian. His voice hard and commanding. I sat there with my coffee, trying to figure out what was happening between us, and whether I wanted it to stop or accelerate. The call was from Viktor Volkov. I didn't know that at the time. I just knew Alessandro was tense for the rest of the day. Friday night, he called a meeting. His senior advisors in the penthouse conference room. Marco, Vincent, Paolo, Anthony, James. I was in my room editing photos when Marco knocked. Mr. Caruso wants you in the meeting. Why? Didn't say. Just said bring you. I followed him to the conference room. Alessandro stood at the head of the table. Everyone else was already seated. The energy in the room was electric, dangerous. Sit, Alessandro said to me. I sat. The Volkovs have made a proposal, he said without preamble. They want access to our southern shipping routes. In exchange, they'll provide protection for our waterfront operations and guarantee no interference with our real estate developments. That's generous, Vincent said. Too generous. Agreed. Which is why I'm suspicious. Alessandro placed both hands on the table. They also had a specific request. They want proof our photographer isn't law enforcement or undercover press. They want a meeting, face to face. Every eye in the room turned to me. Absolutely not, Marco said immediately. It's a trap. Probably, Alessandro agreed. But refusing makes them more suspicious. They'll assume we're hiding something. So we give them surveillance photos. Proof she's civilian. They want a meeting. Personal verification. Alessandro's eyes met mine. Riley's choice. She can refuse, but understand that refusal means they remain convinced you're a threat, which means the truce is fragile, which means more attempts, more danger. And if I meet them? You meet Viktor Volkov's second-in-command. Public place. Heavily secured. You answer basic questions about your work. They verify you're who I say you are. The truce solidifies. How dangerous is this? Alessandro was quiet for 3 seconds. Very. But I'll have 20 men within 50 feet. They try anything. They don't leave that meeting alive. Victor knows this. Which is why he won't try anything. Killing you isn't worth starting a war. But they need the meeting to save face. I looked around the table. Marco's face was stone. Vincent looked calculating. Paolo was already planning logistics. Anthony and James waited for my decision. When? I asked. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., the High Line. Public. Crowded. Witnesses everywhere. And if I say no, then you say no. I'll find another way to handle this. But it will be messier. I thought about the 3 men in my apartment, the gun at my temple, the fear I'd felt. I thought about children's hospitals and community centers, about Elena crying with gratitude, about Alessandro pulling me into his arms like he needed to know I was safe. I'll do it, Riley. Alessandro started. I'll do it. If it makes everyone safer, I'll do it. He studied me for a long moment. Marco will brief you. Vincent will coordinate security. You don't go anywhere without 3 of my men, minimum. You wear a wire. You answer only the questions I approve. And if anything feels wrong, you walk away. Clear, clear. Meeting adjourned. Everyone out except Riley. The advisors left quickly. Alessandro waited until the door closed. You didn't have to say yes. Yes, I did. You would have done it anyway. Made it messier. More dangerous. This way is cleaner. This way puts you in a room with people who wanted you dead 2 weeks ago. But they won't kill me, because you'll be there. And you're terrifying when you want to be. He almost smiled. Come here. I stood. Walked to where he stood by the windows. He reached out. Tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. The gesture was gentle. Intimate. Completely at odds with everything we'd just discussed. I need you to understand something, he said quietly. If they hurt you tomorrow, there won't be a truce. There won't be negotiations. There will only be war. Do you understand what that means? You'd start a war for me. I'd end the world for you. The words hung between us. Too much. Too intense. Too real. Why? I whispered. His thumb traced my jaw. His eyes held mine. Because somewhere in the last 8 weeks, you stopped being a problem I needed to solve, and became someone I can't imagine losing. My breath caught. Alessandro, don't say anything. Not yet. Not until after tomorrow. When you're safe, and this is resolved. He dropped his hand, stepped back. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be intense. He left before I could respond. I stood there alone, my heart racing, wondering when exactly I'd fallen for the man who was supposed to be my captor. The High Line at 2 p.m. on a Saturday was crowded. Tourists, families, couples, people enjoying the elevated park with its gardens and city views. I wore jeans and a sweater, camera bag over my shoulder, wire taped to my ribs under my clothes. Marco walked 3 steps behind me. Vincent was ahead. Paulo covered the south entrance. Anthony and James had the north. 15 more men scattered throughout the park in plainclothes. Alessandro was in a car 2 blocks away, monitoring everything. West side bench, Marco said quietly, in my earpiece. 3 men. Middle one's Dmitry Volkov, Victor's brother. I found the bench. 3 men in expensive casual wear. The one in the middle was maybe 40, sharp features. Cold eyes. I sat down across from them, on a facing bench. Miss Morrison, Dmitry said. American accent, with just a hint of Russian underneath. Thank you for meeting with us. I didn't have much choice. You always have choices. You chose to work for Alessandro Caruso. That was interesting. I chose to take a photography job. Did you? He leaned forward. Or did you infiltrate his operation on someone's orders? I infiltrated a charity gala on my own stupidity. Nobody sent me. I wanted photos of the man everyone talks about, but nobody sees. That's it. And you got caught. And I got caught. And now you live with him. Work exclusively for him. Photograph only what he approves. For 6 months. Then I'm free. Are you? Dmitry smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. You think Alessandro Caruso lets people walk away once they've seen inside his operation? I think he keeps his word. How noble. Dmitry sat back. Show me your camera. I pulled it out, handed it over. He examined it. Checked the photos stored on the memory card. Hundreds of images from the last 8 weeks. Hospital events. Community centers. Charity galas. Nothing incriminating. Nothing that showed the other side of Alessandro's operations. You're good, Dmitry said. These photos make him look almost human. He is human. Is he? Or is that what he's convinced you to believe? I don't need to be convinced of anything. I've seen the work he does, the people he helps. That's real. So is the violence, the control, the bodies that disappear when people cross him. I didn't respond. Dimitri handed back my camera. You're either very naive or very good at playing naive. I can't decide which. Does it matter? It matters if you're law enforcement. It matters if you're gathering evidence. It matters if Caruso is using you as a shield while he expands into our territory. I'm a photographer. That's all. I take pictures of charity events and post them on Instagram. I'm not a cop. I'm not a spy. I'm just someone who made a stupid mistake and is paying for it. Dimitri studied me for a long moment. Then he stood. You're convincing. I'll give you that. He buttoned his jacket. Tell your employer we accept his proposal. Southern routes, access in exchange for waterfront protection. But if we find out you're not what you claim, our truce ends immediately. He walked away. His 2 men followed. I sat on the bench, heart pounding, trying not to shake. Clear, Marco said in my ear. They're leaving the park. You did good. Can I move? Wait for my signal. 30 seconds. A minute. No, Vincent's coming to get you. Vincent appeared. Walked me calmly toward the exit. Marco fell in behind us. Professional. Efficient. We reached the street. A car pulled up immediately. The back door opened. Alessandro sat inside. I got in. The door closed. We pulled into traffic. He didn't speak, just looked at me. Really looked at me. Like he was searching for something. I'm okay, I said. They just wanted to verify I'm not undercover. I heard. You did well. I told the truth. Easier that way. The truth is you're living with me by choice now. You could have left after the first month. I gave you the option. I stared at him. You never gave me that option. Yes, I did. 6 weeks ago. I left a new contract on your nightstand. 3 months remaining. Or immediate release with full payment and guaranteed safety. You signed the 3 months without asking why I was offering an out. My mind raced back. The contract I'd assumed was just a formality. The papers I'd signed while distracted by a deadline. You were testing me. I was giving you freedom. You chose to stay. Because I committed to 6 months. Because you wanted to stay. He was right. God help me. He was right. I could have left. Could have taken the money and run. Could have escaped back to my chaotic life of party crashing and avoiding commitment. But I'd stayed. Not because I had to. Because I wanted to. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Because I needed you to figure it out yourself. Needed you to stop running long enough to realize you found something worth staying for. The car pulled up to his building. Come upstairs, Alessandro said. We need to talk. We stood in his living room. Manhattan stretching below us. The city that had brought us together through my stupid mistake. The 6 months are almost up, Alessandro said. 3 weeks left on our original agreement. I know. I want to renegotiate. To what? He turned to face me. To something real. Not employer and employee, not captor and captive, not protection arrangement or business deal. He crossed the space between us. I want you to stay because you want to. Because the last 8 weeks have been the best months I've had in years. Because you make me laugh. Because you challenge me. Because you see the monster and the man, and somehow accept both. His hands framed my face. I want you to stay because you're falling for me the same way I'm falling for you. Alessandro, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you don't feel this. Tell me I misread everything, and I'll honor our original agreement. 3 weeks from now, you walk away. Free. No obligations. I should have lied. Should have protected myself. Should have run like I always ran when things got too real. But I was done running. You're not wrong, I whispered. I feel it. All of it. And it terrifies me. Why? Because I don't know how to do this. How to be with someone. How to commit. How to stay when everything in me screams to run. Then we'll figure it out together. You teach me how to be imperfect. I'll teach you how to stay. He kissed me before I could overthink it. Soft at first. Testing. Then deeper. When I kissed him back. His hands in my hair. Mine clutching his shirt. 8 weeks of tension and denial and fighting what we both felt exploding into this moment. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. Stay, he said against my lips. Not for 6 months, not for a contract. Stay because you choose me every day, and I'll choose you. What about your world? The danger? The violence? I'll protect you. Always. That's not negotiable. What about my freedom? My career? My need to not feel trapped? I'll never trap you. You can leave anytime, travel anywhere, photograph whatever you want. I just want you to come home to me. Home. The word settled into my chest like it belonged there. Okay, I said. Okay, I'll stay. Not out of obligation? Not out of obligation. Because I want to. Because somehow in the last 8 weeks, you became the thing I've been running toward instead of away from. He kissed me again. Slower this time. Like we had all the time in the world. Maybe we did. The last 3 weeks of our contract passed differently. I still photographed his events. Still posted approved content. Still helped manage the foundation's image. But now I did it as his partner. Not his employee. We had dinner together every night. He was in town. He taught me Italian. I taught him to loosen up. To break small rules. To laugh without checking. First, if it was appropriate. He showed me the parts of his world I'd only glimpsed. Introduced me properly to his mother, who cried and hugged me and whispered finally in Italian. I showed him my world. The messy, chaotic, imperfect parts. The photography that broke rules. The adventures that made no sense. The joy of doing something just because it was fun. We balanced each other. His structure gave me roots. My spontaneity gave him wings. On the last day of our original 6-month contract, Alessandro took me to dinner. Private restaurant. Just us. Overlooking the city where we'd met. So, he said, pouring wine. Contract's officially up. You're free. Am I? Technically, you fulfilled your obligations. I paid you in full. We're even. Are we? He smiled. No, we're not even close to even. I owe you everything. You changed my life, Riley. Made me see that perfection isn't possible, and that's okay. That rules are important, but so is breaking them sometimes. That control is valuable, but so is letting go. He reached across the table, took my hand. I love you. I know it's fast. I know it's complicated, but I love you. The chaos and the camera and the way you challenge everything I think I know. My eyes burned. I love you too. The rules and the control and the way you make me feel safe enough to stay. So what happens now? Now we figure it out. No contract. No obligations. Just us choosing each other. Every day? Every day. He raised his glass. To new beginnings. I clinked my glass against his. To finding home in the most unexpected places. We drank to that. To us. To the future we'd build together. The party girl and the perfectionist. The chaos and the control. The type 7 who learned to stay and the type 1 who learned to let go. We weren't perfect. We never would be. But we were real. And we were together. And somehow, that was everything. 6 months later, the gallery opening was packed. My first solo show. Contrasts the hidden faces of power. Photos from my year with Alessandro. The charity work alongside hints of the danger. The children and the security. The philanthropy and the implied violence. All of it. The whole truth. The complexity. Alessandro stood beside me, his hand on my lower back. Protective. Proud. You told our story, he said quietly. I told the truth. That nothing is simple. That people can be both good and dangerous. That love exists in complicated spaces. Are you worried what people will think? No, not anymore. I spent my whole life running from anything real, because real meant complicated. But complicated is beautiful, complicated is honest. He kissed my temple. I'm proud of you. Even though some of these photos show your world, especially because of that. You showed it honestly. The good and the difficult. That's all I ever wanted. Elena approached with a couple in their 60s. Major donors. Riley, darling, they love your work. They want to commission you for their foundation's annual report. I smiled, shook hands, talked about my vision and process. This was my life now. Photography that told complex truths. A partner who supported my chaos while giving me structure. A home that felt like freedom instead of a cage. Later, after the show, Alessandro and I stood on our penthouse terrace. Happy? He asked. Terrified. I admitted. Happy terrifies me. It feels like something that can be taken away. So we hold on to it, fight for it, choose it every day. Every day? Every day. I leaned into him, looked out at the city that had brought us together through my reckless mistake, and his rigid rules. You know what's funny? I said. What? I crashed your party looking for a photo that would make my career. Instead, I found something I didn't even know I was looking for. What's that? Someone who makes staying feel like freedom instead of a trap. Someone who sees my chaos and doesn't try to fix it. Someone who taught me that roots don't have to feel like prison. He turned me to face him. And you taught me that control isn't everything. That perfection is a prison. That sometimes the most beautiful thing you can do is break your own rules. We're good for each other. We're perfect for each other. Which is ironic, since neither of us believes in perfection anymore. I laughed, kissed him under the Manhattan stars. The party girl who learned to stay. The perfectionist who learned to let go. Finding home in each other's contradictions. It wasn't the story I'd set out to tell when I crashed that gala. It was so much better.